Hi everyone, my name is Tej and today we'll be going through CSEC Math 2024 June, paper 2. So let's start with the first question. So they're asking you to calculate the value of square root of 7.1 squared plus 2.9 squared. So in this case, in my opinion, the easiest thing is to just plug it directly as it is into the calculator. If you work it out bit by bit, there's a higher chance you get something wrong. So when you plug this in, you'll get 7.669. So in part A, they're asking you to put this to two significant figures. So we'll look at we look at the non-zero, the first non-zero figure, and we need it to 2. So we look at these two, but we have to consider the one right after. Because it's more than 5, we have to round up. So in this case, it'll be 7.7 is the answer. Then in part B, they ask for 2 decimal places, 7.669, so we need 2 decimal places. And of course, again, we have to consider the number next to it, because this is more than 5, or 5 or more. Again, we have to round up. So in this case, we got 7.67 as the answer. Now moving on to part 2. So they ask us to write the following quantities in ascending order. So we have one fraction, one decimal, and one percentage. So these are 3 ways of writing the same thing. You can have equivalent forms of the same number in a decimal, percentage, or fraction. So all you need to do is convert all to one form, and you could compare it. So in this case, maybe we could just convert them all to decimals. If you prefer, you could convert them all to fractions. But yeah, so 12 divided by 25, you could go into your calculator and put it in, or mentally you could just look at it and you'll see that it's 0.48 is the decimal. Then we have 0.46. That one doesn't need to be converted because it's already in decimal form. And then 47%, that's 47 out of 100, that's 0.47. So as we can see, this is the biggest one. Then this is in the middle, this is the smallest. So in ascending order, 0.46 will be here, then 0.47. But this is really 47% because that's how they presented it in the question. So 47% is next. And then this one is the biggest one, 0.48. So 12 out of 25. So that would be the answer for part 2. So now in part B, it says Mahendra and Jaya shared $7,224 in the ratio 7 to 5. How much more money does Mahendra receive than Jaya? So when you see a question with a ratio and 2 numbers, the first thing I typically do is add those 2 numbers up, and that's your denominator. So we have 7 to 5, so those 2 numbers, when you add them up, you get 12. And the person who's getting the 7 part of the ratio would be 7 out of that total. So Mahendra is getting 7 out of 12, and Jaya is getting 5 out of 12. So again, you look at these 2 numbers here, and you add them up, and then one person is getting this much out of that total, so 7 out of 12, and then the other person is getting this much out of that total, so 5 out of 12. So, I mean, there are many ways you could do this question, but I think this is a pretty simple way to do it. So Mahendra will get 7/12 of 7,224. That would be 4,214. Jaya gets 5/12 out of 7,224. That is 3,010. And so the difference between them, how much more money does Mahendra receive than Jaya? We'll just do 4,214 minus 3,010, and we'll get 4,200. Just plug that into your calculator. You get 1,204. So that's the answer for part B. Now moving on to part C. Okay, so now moving on to part C. So they say the present population of Portsmouth is 550,000. It's expected that this population will increase by 42% by the year 2030. So first they're asking us in part 1, write the number 550,000 in standard form. So just as a bit of a recap, when they ask for standard form, they want a number between 0 and 10 multiplied by 10 to the something. So it'll be like some number multiplied by 10 to the power of something, right? So in this case, what I like to do, this is like my favorite method for doing this. So what we'll do is we'll first figure out what is the number that's gonna be between 0 and 10. So if the number is 550,000, then 5.5 will be our number between 0 and 10. So 5.5. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the decimal point and see how many jumps we need to go so that we get all the zeros back. So I'll show you. So basically it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. And then you fill in all those jumps with zeros. And that gives us back 550,000. So in this case, we would have had to make the decimal point jump 5 times. And so because of that, we'll write 5.5 by 10 to the power of 5, because we had made it jump 5 times. In part 2, they asked to calculate the expected population of Portsmouth in 2030. So 100% of the population is 550,000. That's what they tell us at the start. That's the whole population, 550,000. But they're saying it's going to increase by 42%. So instead of it being 100%, it's going to be increased by 42%. So in 2030, there's going to be 142% of the current population. Remember, 142% means 142 out of 100. So then to calculate the expected population, we'll take 142% multiplied by the original number, the original population, which is 550,000. And that gives us 781,000. So that's the expected population in 2030. So for the next question now, they're saying, for part D, they're saying the graph below can be used to convert between United States dollars, US, and Eastern Caribbean dollars, EC. So firstly, they ask, using the graph, convert $2 US to EC. So first of all, we're going to look at our graph and identify that point at which there's $2 US. And then this line over here is telling us the relationship. So we're going to draw a line over from our $2 US, see where it meets the actual relationship line. Meets it right here. So now we're going to carry it down to the EC axis. So we looked at where it was in the US, carried it across, and then we're going to see where it matches on the EC line. So we'll carry it down, and it's right here. So now, if we look, we'll see we have over here, this is 5, this is 6, and there are 5 spaces in between. So that means this will be 5.2 over here, 5.4, 5.6, 5.8, and then 6, because it's 5 equal portions, and each they take us from 5 to 6. So the only way for it to be mathematically correct is for each of those portions to represent 0.2. So that we get 5.5 to 5.2, 5.4, 5.6, 5.8, and then over to 6. So this one over here is 5.2, 5.4. So just reading it off from the graph, we'll get 5.4. So the answer is $5.40 EC. And then for part 2, they're saying they want us to convert EC70 to US. So as we can see on the graph, the graph only shows us up to 10. They don't show all the way up to 70. So what we have to do, so one easy way to do it is find a nice relationship between the two currencies and then use that. So we can't read off the graph what $70 is in US, but we can read off what, for example, $7 is. So let's see. So if we were to look at $7 EC, it's over here. We're going to carry it up to the relationship line, and then carry it across. And you'll see that that's 2.2, 2.4, 2.6. If we look at it there, because again it's divided into 5 equal parts, so each bar represents 0.2. So that'll be 2.2, 2.4, 2.6 is where it meets. So we just saw that the relationship is 7 EC is 2.6 US. So if we were to multiply, so this is the relationship. Every 7 EC is 2.6 US. But they're asking us for 70 EC. So we want to find what 70 EC is to US. So how did we go from here to here? We multiplied by 10. So to find the equivalent amount for US, we're also going to multiply by 10. And that'll give us 2.6 by 10, which is 26. So using this relationship of 7 EC being 2.6 US, we can tell that 70 EC is 26 US, because we just multiply both sides by 10. And so the answer is 26.